Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Apologies for my absence Thursday and Friday, but I was at this LAC Africa, Latin America, Caribbean and Africa conference. And then we had Mindspeak on Saturday. Do take a look at Bob Collimore's Tour de Force, the evolution of hope. Really powerful presentation. There's a link for the slideshow. We're editing the actual footage and very interesting sweep of history starting at the beginning, which was the trilobites, apparently 587 million years ago, according to Bob. I like this photograph, early morning beach walks on Manda Island, Lamu, just the sound of birds and softly lapping waves in Rushka. I discovered that Africa's tallest tree, measuring 81 meters, was found on Mount Kilimanjaro. It's definitely a contender. Africa's tallest indigenous tree, measuring a whopping 81.5 meters, has been discovered in a remote valley on the continent's highest mountain, the Kilimanjaro. The Colossus in Tanzania has matched Africa's previous tree height record established by a specimen of the introduced Sydney blue gum Eucalyptus salinia in Limpopo, South Africa, which died in 2006. They sized 32 specimens with laser instruments between 2012 and 2016, finding that the 10 tallest individuals range from 59.2 to 81.5 meters in height. I like this photograph, green light, Q2 has begun, the track is getting quicker as the temperatures drop. If that continues, the end of Q2, it could be very interesting. This was Formula One. William Burroughs in the bunker. Take a look at this photograph of him. Give you 3 quotes from William Burroughs. Hustlers of the world, there is one mark you cannot beat, the mark inside. A paranoid is someone who knows little of what's going on. A psychotic is a guy who's just found out what's going on. And then desperation is raw material of drastic change. Only those who can leave behind everything they have ever believed in can hope to escape. Bands of pink and purple streak the sky over Stonehenge at dawn. Getty Images, wonderful photograph. Political reflections, obviously the big news over the weekend was the demise of Fidel Castro, and what a bifurcated response we had. Miami, Florida on the continuum to the right, very unhappy with Castro, of course, and then right on the left of that continuum is Africa. And I'll come to the reasons why. Ideas can be more powerful than nuclear weapons, he said. Condemn me, it is of no importance. History will absolve me. Comrade Fidel Castro in 1953. Have a look at an African Odyssey, Cuba. This is a video link, part 1 and part 2. Take a look at that to get a feel of why Africa feels so strongly about Castro. On the January the 8th, 1959, after 2 years of fighting, Mr. Castro rode into Havana in a jeep to a delirious welcome from Cubans as their new leader. The 32-year-old looked exhausted but happy, alongside 5,000 exuberant rebels who had forced Mr. Batista to flee the country. And I like this one, Hasta siempre, Fidel. 5 weeks in a row, thousands come out to downtown Seoul to protest and demand President Park's resignation. That took me back to Kapuscinski. If the crowd disperses, goes home, does not reassemble, we say the revolution is over. Beppe Grillo, I like this tweet from his con il cuore in mano per il nostro paese. Have a look at the photograph. My Italian's not up to scratch. I like this quote of his. This is the deflagration of an epoch. It's the apocalypse of the information system, of the TVs, of the big newspapers, of the intellectuals, of the journalists. Francois Fillon has won the Conservatives' primary to run for the French president. He's going to have to challenge Marine Le Pen. It's going to be very interesting. Can't count out Marine Le Pen. Noam Chomsky, in an Al Jazeera interview, said the most predictable aspect of Trump is unpredictability. I think it's very dangerous, he said. International markets, the pound, which is down quite heavily today, is the only major currency to have risen against the dollar in the month of November. Looking at the currency markets, euro dollar, which was above 106, is back below it at 105.95, dollar index 101.30, Japanese yen 112.46, Swissy 101.36, the pound 123.90, the Australian dollar 0.7452, India rupee 68.765, I think that's just off a record low. South Korean won 11.7350, the Rial 340.14, Egyptian pound 17.8545, and the South African rand is firm at 13.90. Dollar yen, I'll put up a 5-day chart. You can see it's had a huge move post-Trump, and trying to retrace some of that right now. Euro dollar, Aurelia has been talking about a trading bounce, and I think she got it. I'll put up her chart. And then I'll just remind you of one of my favorite quotes from Virilio: wealth is the hidden side of speed, and speed the hidden side of wealth. Commodity markets, gold was last trading at 1191.85. It's having a little bit of a bounce here. I've written my piece over the weekend is, will OPEC bring oil markets back to balance? This week, OPEC, which was once feared and could make Western economies quake and shake, meets in Vienna on November 30. Who can forget the glory days of OPEC when the gnome-like Sheikh Yamani, Minister of Petroleum from 1962 to 1986, prayer beads in hand, would hold the global economy in his thrall with his often cryptic pronouncements. Those were the glory go-go days, which were in fact repeated 2010 to 2014 before the big crash, which has seen Riyadh, Caracas, Luanda, Abuja all enter a tailspin. OPEC is seeking to bring the oil markets back into balance. The oil markets have had an oil surplus for a number of years. In October, global oil production was in the order of 80 million barrels per day. Crude oil in New York closed Friday at $46.11 a barrel, giving a cumulative oil income of about $3.6 billion a day versus about $8.8 billion per day at the price peak of around $110 in 2014. These are very big numbers indeed. Kapuscinski wrote in The Shah of Shahs, oil creates the illusion of a completely changed life, life without work, life for free. Oil is a resource that anesthetizes thought, blurs vision, corrupts. Oil kindles extraordinary emotions and hopes, since oil is above all a great temptation. It is the temptation of ease, wealth, strength, fortune, power. It is a filthy, foul-smelling liquid that squirts obligingly up into the air and falls back to earth as a rustling shower of money. To discover and possess the source of oil is to feel as if, after wandering long underground, you have suddenly stumbled upon royal treasure. Not only do you become rich, but you are also visited by the mystical conviction that some higher power has looked upon you with the eye of grace and magnanimously elevated you above others, electing you its favorite. Many photographs preserve the moment when the first oil spurts from the well, people jumping for joy, falling into each other's arms, weeping. Oil creates the illusion of a completely changed life, life without work, life for free. Oil is a resource that anesthetizes thought, blurs vision, corrupts. People from poor countries go around thinking, God, if only we had oil. The concept of oil expresses perfectly the eternal human dream of wealth achieved through lucky accident, through a kiss of fortune, not by sweat, anguish, hard work. In this sense, oil is a fairy tale, and like every fairy tale, a bit of a lie. Oil fills us with such arrogance that we begin believing we can easily overcome such unyielding obstacles as time. With oil, the last Shah used to say, "I will create a second America in a generation." He never created it. Oil, though powerful, has its defects. It does not replace thinking or wisdom. Consider that crude oil traded above $90 a barrel from October 2010 all the way through September 2014. From September 2014, it embarked upon a precipitous drop and traded below $30 a barrel in early 2016. The big supply curveball was in fact the US, which pumped an average of 9.43 million barrels per day in 2015, the highest level since 1972, and 89% more than in 2008. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia ramped up production in a response to try and bust this US supply out of the system, and is pumping around 10.5 million barrels per day. Russia responded by taking its production to all-time highs of around 11.5 million barrels per day. Iran is seeking to ramp up production after rolling back the sanctions. The post-2014 price collapse has in fact brought indiscipline because most producers have pumped more to try and make up for the price drop. So, on November 30, OPEC will seek to curb its output to between 32.5 million and 33 million barrels a day from 33.6 million barrels a day in October. Saudi Arabia is demanding that Iraq must cut and Iran must freeze crude output. Those with a long memory will recall that Saddam Hussein rolled into Kuwait the first time exactly because after the Iran-Iraq war, he felt that the kingdoms of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait deliberately pumped like crazy. Kuwait went as far as selling Iraq notes at deep discounts in order to shutter Iraq's ability to borrow, in order to collapse his ability to deliver the butter part of the guns and butter equation to more than 1 million returning and now demobilized soldiers. So the current situation is a neat twist. Anyway, let's return to the main story, which is in Vienna this week. OPEC's success is dependent on disciplining its own members, which is a little like herding cats. Then they need non-OPEC Russia for starters to cap their production. The US, where shale was apparently the primary KSA target, and Canada are not in the conversation and will in fact ramp up production on any uptick in prices. The challenge is less with OPEC and more with the outer forces we don't control. Emmanuel Ibe Kachikwu, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum, said Thursday in an interview in Tokyo, the US is beginning to ramp up volumes again. Once the set piece is over, if not before, the markets are going to appreciate the salad days are long gone, and that these cats who once strutted the global stage have had their best days. And then we enter the second leg of the downturn in these economies. Russia has shown it can withstand the pain. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going to have to make further painful adjustments and soon stop loss a deputy crown prince. Other capitals, from Caracas to Luanda, from Abuja to Muscat, whose FX reserves are being shredded and whose currencies are teetering on the precipice, are set to enter uncharted territory. I do not see WTI trading above $60 under any circumstances through 2017. Traders can sell $60 strike call options with a 1-year maturity into a price rally and pocket the premium. Let me put up a chart from business, OPEC and non-OPEC crude oil production. This is an image of the OPEC conference room. That was on November the 24th. Next week, it's going to be very tough finding a free spot there. More than 300 journalists are registered for this meeting. Have a look at the link, Kapuscinski on oil societies from the Shah of Shahs. Get a chance. I'll put up a photograph of Sheikh Yamani, the one I was writing about with his prayer beads and holding global economies in thrall. Another photograph of the head of the Chechen Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov, who's visiting Saudi Arabia and meeting with their deputy crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, who will be stop lost in due course. Crude oil, I'll put up a 5-day chart, we're back above $46 at $46.24. Sub-Saharan Africa, John Magufuli has been voted the African of the Year. I wrote about Magufuli in the geopolitics of pipelines in East Africa. He is the 5th president of the United Republic of Tanzania, and in my opinion has shifted the center of gravity for East African oil and gas south in one fell swoop. He's winning. It's time for some serious soul searching, in my opinion. Ethiopia's crisis by René Lefort, Things Fall Apart, will the center hold? And in this article he's saying Meles left with the password, saying the weakening of central authority Addis Ababa has thus released centrifugal regional forces, steadily stifled by Melesh's iron grip. My piece was Ethiopia's reputation shattered by political tensions. That was on October. And I was talking again about Virilio, said the revolutionary contingent attains its ideal form not in the place of production, but in the street. And I was asking then, because this was the time of Ouagadougou, how many people can an incumbent shoot stone cold dead, 100, 1,000, 10,000? The Ethiopians are currently experimenting with that. Mobility in African cities, lovely photograph of Yaoundé. And then in Gambia, suddenly the Green Boys appear, child supporters who herald the president's coming, chanting, Yaya, Yaya Jammeh, we love you. And there is less than 1 week to go before Barrow, first time the opposition is consolidated behind one candidate, takes on Yaya, the current president. As Zimbabwe's money runs out, so does Mugabe's power. Worthless $100 trillion notes serve as reminders of the perils of hyperinflation. President Mugabe is printing a new currency, and actually they're releasing it today. According to the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, the bond notes will be officially interchangeable 1-to-1 with the US dollar. It should ease the cash crunch, unlikely. After 2008 multi-billion % inflationary meltdown caused by rampant money printing, many Zimbabweans are skeptical. The plan has already caused a run on the Zimbabwean banks as people empty their accounts of hard currency. Internal intelligence briefings seen by Reuters raised the possibility that the bond notes, if they crash, could spell the end of Mugabe's 36 years in charge. A Central Intelligence Organization report revealed that the powerful army was as unhappy as the rest of the population with the new notes, and had told Africa's oldest leader to wake up and smell the coffee. Top security officers have told Mugabe not to blame them if Rhodes starts to burn, the report said. The note's first test will come in the informal foreign exchange markets on the streets of Harare. If they fall heavily in value, they're likely to unleash an inflationary spiral that could bleed the banking system of its last few dollars and wipe out Zimbabwean savings for the second time in less than a decade, economists say. You start with $1, then you got 10, then you got 100, then you got 1,000. It's not even lunchtime. John Robertson. The banks may say 1-to-1, but here we say 2-to-1. We can't afford to pay the same as the banks. I'm running a business, not a bank. Eco cash? No thank you. Dollars, 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 said patients, a 22-year-old working a Harare street corner. No dollars, no fun. Mugabe responded to the growing pressure on November 19 with an address in which he admitted fallibility and gave a rare hint at retirement. If I'm making mistakes, you should tell me, I will go, he said, before adding, change should come in a proper way. If I have to retire, let me retire properly. I wrote in July 2016 that countries like Zimbabwe feel they are right at the edge, an edge that Hunter S. Thompson described thus. The edge, there is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. Zimbabwe Central Bank said on Saturday it will circulate $10 million worth of new bond notes on Monday. Tito Mboweni, and those who abuse power, abuse our trust, shall soon be taught that you are not the boss of the people, but their servant. Time to go. The ANC is meeting on President Zuma's future. This meeting has been extended until Monday. Tourism Minister Derek Hanekom proposed the motion on Saturday. South African oil shares flat for the year. South Africa get trumped. Fitch cuts outlook to negative. Affirms rating at BBB-, one notch above junk. Dollar versus rand actually firm. The rand last trading at 13.90. 3,600 pairs of underwear hanging in Maboneng to represent the 3,600 reported rapes that happen in South Africa daily. It's shocking. I was tweeting Charlie Robertson at RenCap. He thinks the fair value price for the Egyptian pound is 14.5. We're close to 18 right now. Nigerian all share down 11.55% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange down 18.54% this year. Nairobi all share down 5.7% this year. NSE 20 down 19.18% this year. Good to be back. Wishing you a tremendous week.